What's good, YouTube? Omar coming at you with the video. I know it's been a while. I have been very busy with schoolwork and everything and haven't been able to make this video, which is why it's coming at you pretty late here. But as you can see from behind me, new change of scenery today. I'm back in the city visiting for the weekend. And it just so happens that Game 1 of the NLCS is tonight between the Mets and the Chicago Cubs. So I know none of us made a video on the NLDS, so I'm going to start with that. What a game 5 was to finish off what really to me was an amazing playoff series. Whether it was, watching the Mets be in a playoff series, which I haven't seen in 9 years, is besides the point. Even if you're not a Mets fan or a Dodger fan, that series had to be entertaining for everybody. 5 games, it went the full 5, and in the end of the day, we win by 1 run on the road in LA. I read Gary Cohen's comments about Daniel Murphy, about how he thinks that at the end of the day, Murphy is just an overall negative in terms of a second baseman for the Mets because of his, his lack of defensive skill. Listen, Murphy's not the greatest defender, and Murphy is not the power guy that he showed in the last series. That being said, Daniel Murphy brings a lot to the table that are just things that aren't just simply defined by offense and defense. First of all, he's the hardest guy to strike out in the MLB, and that's not just a novelty stat, because we have plenty of guys on the Mets that just cannot put the bat on the ball when there's a guy on third base and 1 out, or a guy on second base and no outs, and chances where you have to move runners up, hit sac flies, make things happen even if it's a productive out. There's plenty of guys such as Wright, even Cespedes, who can't get that done on the Mets a lot of times. That's what Daniel Murphy can be great for. He's a veteran at this point in his career, and he single-handedly, I know, as I said, I'm not just going to go off of what he did in Game 5, but he did single-handedly win us Game 5, along with maybe Jacob deGrom. I mean, whether it was the RBI double in the first inning to the unbelievably smart steal of third between the pitch there by Greinke when the shift was on, and, of course, the eventual game-winning homer in the 6th inning. This guy he's clutch, he's there when we need him, and I'm just at a kind of a loss for words that it's like something that you wouldn't expect Gary Cohen to say. But in my personal opinion, Murphy's a great player, and he's just showing the Mets what he can do for the Mets, basically, if they decide to re-sign him. So, obviously, it was great to beat the Dodgers. It was great that we got Chase Utley up there to get him out. Finally, after a long wait, we want Utley chance and all that. Chase Utley's hit in the 9th inning, that fly out, I could have sworn it was gone off the bat, or at least a double. It looked like it was roped. And when I saw that ball go into Granderson's glove, I knew we were in the clear. How about Familia? 16 batters faced in the series. He retired all 16. That's insane. That's insane. And hopefully he can be close to that. Not going to expect him to retire every batter for every series, but, we need him to be big and clutch, especially in this series against the Cubs. So, now that I've kind of wrapped up the NLDS, time to talk about the NLCS for a bit. Moved from a 5 to a 7-game series, obviously. And the Cubs. The Chicago Cubs are the opponent. First and foremost, home field advantage, I don't really want to say that that's going to play too much into this series. But what I did read yesterday, which was kind of had me excited. Not excited, but a little bit, put a little smile on my face, was that a lot of the Cubs hitters have had problems this year hitting in cold weather. Now, it doesn't really make sense to me because Wrigley Field, in the early season and late season can be one of the coldest ballparks. But apparently it's not that cold this year at Wrigley Field, and it's not going to be as cold at Wrigley Field for games 3 through 5 as it is for Citi Field, games 1 and 2, 6 and 7. Guys such as Soler, Chris Bryant, That's the main two I read about, which are two big pieces of the lineup. Just do not hit well in the cold, especially Soler. He has some god awful numbers, like 150 or something when it's in a game that's 50 degrees or below. So I saw that this morning. Or no, I saw that last night, and that made me excited. Then this morning, I saw a different little novelty stat, which was that the Cubs are one of the worst, if not the worst teams against high velocity pitching. So 94, I think it was 94 mile an hour and above pitching for the season. Obviously, the New York Mets pitching staff is number one in average velocity in the league, and we're throwing, three very hard guys. The Mats doesn't really get up there with the other three in terms of velocity, but he's not throwing 85. That obviously, I think that's a bigger factor because that's going to play out through the whole series, whether it's in Citi Field or in Wrigley, and B, I just think that the larger sample size for that stat means that there's some more significance to that stat. The fact that they're last in strikeouts, like they had the most strikeouts against pitching of that nature and such. Hey, the Cubs have plenty of stats against us. They beat us all 7 games that we faced them this year. But, all these stats are novelty and they can all be disproven. For example, you look at the lineups that we put out there against the Cubs when they were beating down on us. I mean, you see Siciliani, Johnny Monell, all sorts of bums. So you can't really go off of, especially without Cespedes, without Wright, even though, Wright was awful in the NLDS. But hopefully you get some more out of guys like Wright. So before I make a pick for the series and before I end this video, I'm just going to do 3 guys that I loved and 3 guys that I hated in the NLDS. So start out with the number 3 guy that I loved in the NLDS. And that has to be, even though he did not pick up a win, Noah Syndergaard. Now, Noah Syndergaard, he pitched in the game that had the infamous Tejada slide. Did not get a win, obviously. And then he pitched 1 inning in Game 5. But he looked explosive. And the reason why I put him at my number 3 person to love in the series is kind of for the future. I know he's going to be a big factor in terms of this series and hopefully the World Series. Number 2 guy I love, Jacob deGrom. What can you say? 2 great outings. Second one wasn't that great by his standards, but still, he still went out there and he performed at a high level, and he kept us in that game, even though he got down early. And number 1, Daniel Murphy. Enough said. I said everything I had to say about Murphy already. Absolutely spectacular series, and single-handedly won us Game 5, which means he single-handedly won us the series. In that last game, at least. 3 guys I hated this series. I'm going to start number 3, David Wright. Now, I could put David Wright number 1, don't get me wrong, but he's the captain, and I'm gonna let him rock for now. But he, besides that big 2-run single in Game 1, he looks lost at the plate. He can't reach the outside pitches because his swing is. He's always had that uppercut swing for year after year now, but it's not working. It's not working, and he's uppercutting more and more, I believe, and that's what I have seen. And in turn, as I said, he can't reach the outside pitch. Number 2 guy to hate in this series, I'm going to go with Travis d'Arnaud. He had a big home run in Game 3, which was an onslaught, and he had a sac fly in Game 5. But what I don't like to see from d'Arnaud is there's no approach. He has no approach to the plate. If I'm hope, and I feel like I'm not the only one to realize that Travis d'Arnaud is swinging at every pitch. Almost every pitch that d'Arnaud saw, it seemed like he was swinging. He has to go up there and be patient. We faced good pitchers last series. We're facing some good ones this series in Arrieta, Lester. These are guys you have to make sure that they get their money's worth. You get the money's worth of your at-bats, and d'Arnaud just didn't do that in the series. And number 1, Lucas Duda. What the... Set the record for a 5-game series in terms of strikeouts by one player. I think he had 11 or 12. He's not starting tonight. Kadira's in the lineup, who I hate as well. I could have put him on this, but he's not a starter, so I didn't put him on the guys I hate. But, hey, all that being said, I'm not going to make a direct pick for this series because I don't really like to pick when the Mets are playing, but I truly believe we should and could win this series. I know the Cubs are a team of destiny. I know that they're young and they're led by Joe Madden, who's a great manager, but we have the pitching to win this series, and the bottom line is pitching wins championships. Let's go out there. Let's win these, especially win these games at home with this home field advantage. Make it worth something. And let's head to the World Series. Let's go Mets. Game 1 tonight, baby. You know I'll be watching.